Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So if you had to guess, what would you say is the happiest country in the world? I mean, look, this study, this list of the happiest places on Earth comes out every single year, and every single year you and I discuss it. And I got to tell you, we've been doing this show about 4 years, and the answer hasn't changed a whole hell of a lot in this time. But if you don't remember and you had to guess, what would you say is the happiest country in the world? Here's the thing. It's not the good old US of A. I don't think we fall too terribly low on that list, but there's one country, or at least one group of countries, that seems to stand head and shoulders above the rest of us in terms of how stoked they are with life in general. And obviously you got to question the validity of this sort of list, but yeah, which country do you think this is? Well, we'll get into that a little later on, but I want to talk to you about why it's not America. And here's the thing. Far be it from me to question hard work, but we do an awful lot of that around here. If you're like me, you believe in hard work. You trust hard work. Hard work is tangible. Hard work is visceral. Hard work is something that you can wrap your arms around. You can hang your hat on it at the end of the day, and you can feel good about having done a whole bunch of it. If you're like me, you've grown up believing that if you want to do okay in this world, what you do is you show up at work. You show up on time, and then you see how hard the person next to you is working, and you make sure that you're working harder. And then that guy or girl sees that they're being outworked by you, and they work even harder. And then all of a sudden, that company is massively and unbelievably successful, and that's happening all over America, and America is king of the freaking universe. Oh, man. That's sort of, I think, how it goes, and that's how we've been raised. And you know what? That's great. Hard work's freaking fantastic. I believe in it. More than maybe anything else on Earth. But I got to tell you, there's more to it. And this thing where Americans work and then die without a whole lot else in between, or without time for a whole lot else in between, I think ultimately, well, it hurts us as people, but it hurts us as a nation. And it hurts us as the population of the world if we're going through life like this. If we're working to live as opposed to living to work, things go a little bit differently. But right now, we're living to work. And I thought this because I came across an interesting tidbit today. What would it take for you to feel like you're on vacation, to feel like you could actually relax, feel like you could let your work-related guard down? Because apparently, if you really want to relax on vacation, plan to splurge on a plane ticket or a whole lot of gas, because a quick trip a few hours away is probably not going to do it. A new study finds that the average person can't really relax and forget about work until they're at least, get this, 1,000 miles away from their boss. Yeah, you got to put 1,000 miles between you and your boss before you feel like you can relax. Like a fifth of us say we'd be more likely to check our email and answer work calls if your boss is closer than that. The proximity of 1,000 miles, there you go. And a lot of us say that their boss is more likely to contact them if they're still in the same time zone. That's it. You got to get out of the time zone. Where is he? I don't know what time it is there. Nah, I won't call him. You know, it's funny. I have about 18 different bosses, and one of them, Curtis, the guy who is my boss for a station that I'm on in Sacramento, he went on vacation and he went on a cruise, and there was no reaching him. And it was interesting. The cruise, well, he didn't get cell phone service. He didn't really get internet service. We knew we couldn't get in touch with him. And something came up. There was a problem. So what did we do? We didn't call him because we knew we couldn't get in touch with him. We figured it out ourselves. Had we known that he was a phone call or a text message away, we'd have just gotten a hold of him and gone, okay, let's wait and see what Curtis says. But no, we figured it out ourselves, and the world kept turning. And I was like, that was clever of you, Curtis. You went on vacation and you did so in a manner that made it so people couldn't contact you. He was like, that wasn't the intent, but that's something I'm going to be doing going forward. A cruise ship just became my new favorite place to be because nobody can reach me. I was like, yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. I'll never forget. I had to go visit my dad a little while ago. And one of the things I do is I program a radio station. Now, with technology being what it is, I'm able to do that with the benefit of an internet connection. And I remember getting an email from somebody at work saying, "Hey, is this done?" And in the middle of the airport in Frankfurt, Germany, waiting for a connecting flight to Austria to go see my father, who was having a heart procedure done, I whipped out my laptop and I started working. And it made me think a couple of different things. What did it make me think? And how does all this tie into why we might not necessarily be the happiest country in the world the way we technically should be? Because, we're America. We'll get into all of this next. Thank you for hanging out.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So as it turns out, America is not the happiest country on earth. And you know what? We haven't been for a very long time. I don't know if we ever have been, but there's one country or one group of countries that seem to dominate in the happiness stakes. And in many ways, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because this is a frozen, godforsaken, windswept rock of a nation that we're talking about. Where are we talking about? We'll get into it a little later on. But the reason this all kind of came up for me was I read a little while ago that you got to be 1,000 miles away from your boss before you can really relax and be on vacation. It has to do with being out of the time zone. Your boss is less likely to call, text, email you asking for something if they don't know what time zone you're in, or if you are working in a different time zone than they are working, vacationing in a different time zone than they are. And here's the thing. Over 50% of people say they've checked their work email from the hotel room during a vacation. Around 25% of people have checked it while hanging out by the pool. And some of us have even checked our work email while we were swimming in a pool. That's actually kind of a sad truism of modern society. I know so many people that got waterproof phones or waterproof cases for their phones. I'm like, what's this for? So you can go diving, look up sea turtles online when you want to identify them because you're on your snorkeling vacation. No, nothing like that. It's not because they're going on exotic vacations or they're going fishing or they want to protect their phone from the elements in the water because they're off enjoying life and there's water involved in that particular type of life enjoyment. No. Almost everyone I know that's got a waterproof phone has said, "Oh, it's cool. I can check my phone in the shower while I'm getting ready for work." In the shower, you want to start checking work emails. All this technology was supposed to free us. We were supposed to have these machines that freed us up to live more lives. And they haven't done that. They've taken away large chunks of our workday and made it so more is expected of us. Well, a machine's doing that, so you need to take care of this. Give you a perfect example. About a year ago, I had to go visit my father in Austria. My father needed a heart procedure. And by the way, if you're listening to the show at the time, you know this already, but he's fine. Everything went great. He's feeling fit as a fiddle and better than ever before. It's good stuff. I'm very glad I went, but it's good stuff that he is doing so well after this heart procedure. Now, to go to Austria to see my dad while he was getting this stuff done, I had to go through Germany. And I didn't have a ton of internet, but I had a phone with an international plan, and I noticed that I got an email saying, "Hey, know you're away. Not sure if you're going to see this, but any chance you can have a look at this if you do." So there I am. I believe it's Frankfurt Airport in Germany, where there is Wi-Fi, and I do have a laptop. And I've also been sensible enough to bring an adapter so I can plug that laptop into any socket in the world. So what do? I whip out my computer and I program a radio station. Among a couple other things that I do, I program a radio station. And I start working from an airport in Germany, programming a radio station in America. And it made me think a couple things to myself. It made me think, A, technology is pretty amazing. B, why the hell do I bother showing up at the office every day if this is what I could do? But we do. We need to be there. We need to be on call. We need to be available. We need to trade a certain amount of our life away to justify a paycheck. And that's cool and that's fine. And like I said, I believe in hard work. I believe America is built on hard work. I believe in many ways happiness, self-esteem, self-worth is built on hard work. But there's a reason why we might not be the happiest nation in the world. And I think the fact that it takes us 1,000 miles, if we have to travel for 1,000 miles before we feel like we can actually relax and not be bothered by our place of business, and in some cases, if we can be pestered in a foreign airport on a different continent while we are going to see a relative that needs some kind of serious surgery, and we're still open to that, we're still not going, I'm off. I'm dealing with important life stuff with beloved family members. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not picking up the computer. I went away. You freaking deal with it. If we haven't, and maybe this is more of a personal problem for me, maybe I'm just working out some stuff on the air, but I don't know. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one that feels trapped by their job in a lot of ways. And it's more than that. It's more than that whole life-work balance. Well, life is work. That's true. I don't know if anyone ever achieves a life-work balance that everybody talks about you needing. But it goes deeper than that. When we don't have time, to get out and see the world, when we have a very narrow existence, it damages us as individuals and as a people. A luxury vacation, if you think about it, the meaning of that has changed in the last 10, 15 years or so. A luxury vacation used to imply that you were being kept in absolute luxury, that you were doing something highfalutin fancy, and there were probably leather-bound books, rich mahogany, and faraway places, and people with foreign accents, and amazing food, and all of the above. Now I think luxury is more about time. A lot of people can save up the money that it takes to travel in luxury, but what we don't have is the luxury of time. And that's not good. That's not good for you. That's not good for me. That's not good for America. That's not good for the world. Now, I hear you saying, AD, we all have jobs. We got stuff to do. We got to work. We got accountability. We got responsibilities. Yeah, you do. But hear me on this one. Not getting out of your routine and taking an actual break is going to wind up being really bad for all of us. We'll discuss how next.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
So you and I will talk a little bit about what the happiest nation in the world is and why America isn't necessarily it, and why that might be, and what we can do to improve that situation a little later on. Right now, though, I got to tell you, I don't eat a lot of dairy. I'm technically lactose intolerant. There's certain things that will really mess up my innards, and there's certain things I can have. Don't know why, don't know what the logic is. My doctor was never really able to explain it to me, but like if I eat a bowl of ice cream, it's end of days. If I have cheese on my sandwich, I'm okay. I can even have a grilled cheese sandwich. But here's the thing. I never really talked about my lactose intolerance. I didn't think it was cool. I didn't think it was fun. I didn't think it was smart. I didn't think it was sexy. If I was out with a girl and she was like, you want to sip of my milkshake? I was like, oh, okay. I don't want to say I'm lactose intolerant. You can't handle a milkshake. That doesn't sound manly. That doesn't make you sound like the alpha I'm attempting to come across as to this girl, because that's what I believe is necessary because I'm a teenager. Sure, I would love some milkshake, and then I just have to deal with the aftermath afterwards. Don't know why that is, but I never really was big on talking about my lactose intolerance. Things are not the same way now, at least not for people other than me. I still don't really bring it up in conversations. I just sort of say no thank you when it comes to food with the dairy in it that's got to jack with my innards, but that is not the same for everyone, as according to Kevin James.
By the way, quick announcement to the lactose intolerant community. If I offer you ice cream and you can't have any, just say no thank you. I want to silence the lactose intolerant. I don't need to know the havoc dairy products are going to wreak on your bowels right before I'm about to dig into my rocky road. Are we clear? Are we good? You didn't win an award. You got to work it into every conversation. Why would you ever bring it up? You can feel them wanting to bring it up. They're like trying to work it into the it's like double dutch for them. They're like, you could be at a buffet table. You just feel it. They're like, well, what is that? That looks yummy, but I probably can't have that. You want to know why? No, I don't care why. I have no interest in totally intolerant of lactose. Sorry, it's just better for both of us, just so you know. It's out there. I'm lactose intolerant. And I do CrossFit. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. I don't want to say any more. You know, when I was first diagnosed LI, lactose intolerant, it didn't exist 30 years ago. You can't name one person who was lactose intolerant 30 years ago because it did not exist. Actually, it did. It's called a tummy ache.
I guess that's sort of the way I felt about my own lactose intolerance, even though it was a piece of advice I got from a doctor. Like, you're lactose intolerant. You can't handle it. Don't eat it. And I was like, what about yogurt? I love yogurt. No. What about cream of chicken soup? I always love cream of chicken soup when I'm feeling sick. Does it make you feel better? No. Do you feel a little worse after eating the cream of chicken soup? Yeah. Don't eat the cream of chicken soup. Aw. So that was my experience with lactose intolerance. And still, I'm not one for talking about it. So like I said, you and I would talk about the happiest place on earth. And you know what it was? It's Finland this year. Now here's the thing. You might have noticed that over the last couple of years, this list of the happiest countries on earth has been published once a year ever since we started doing this show. And we've talked about it a little bit. And if it wasn't Finland, it was Sweden. If it wasn't Sweden, it was Norway. More often than not, it seems to be Denmark. These tend to be crowned the happiest places in the world. And you know, there's been a lot written about this. But why are these countries, freezing cold, windswept rocks where the sun never shines, so freaking happy? Well, here's the prevailing wisdom. The happiest countries in the world have, in common, a large GDP per capita, healthy life expectancy at birth, and a lack of corruption and leadership. But also essential are three other things over which individual citizens have a bit more control. And this is feeling supported, a sense of social support, freedom to make life choices, and a culture of giving. You live in a country full of generous folks. There is now a rising worldwide demand that policy be more closely aligned with what really matters to people as they themselves characterize their well-being. This is according to an economist called Jeffrey Sachs. And I gotta say, that's one that hits home for me. Let me just say that again. There is a rising worldwide demand that policy be more closely aligned with what really matters to people as they themselves characterize their well-being. Does that make sense? Like I said, it makes sense to me. It hits home for me because I find myself to be increasingly apolitical. Not because I don't care, but because I've come to the conclusion that my happiness is up to me. It's not a politician's job to fix my life. It's not in the hands of a Republican or a Democrat. It's my job to fix my life. I've lived through Republican and Democratic presidents as an adult, and at no point have I ever felt like who the hell is in office has made a lick of freaking difference to how I feel when I wake up in the morning. But the Danes, the people in Denmark, the people in Finland, the people in Sweden, the people in Norway, they're all about it. Here I am, apolitical and apathetic. they've got voter turnouts of up to 90%, some of the highest in the world. And I want you to think about what makes you happy and see if what the Scandinavians have going on would work for you. Scandinavians support parents. American women scrape by with an average maternal leave of 10 weeks, I think. A Danish family, and this is similar for Norway and for Finland and for Sweden, receive a total of 52 weeks of parental leave. Honestly, I don't know if I'm ever going to have kids. I would love to have kids, though. Man, I would love to have kids. Not only would it mean that a girl has allowed me to see her naked, I'd probably get to see, maybe even touch a boob. But I think family, when it's done right, can be the single greatest joy in a person's life. I think that family, when it's done right, can be the single greatest joy in a person's life. And I know so many people who feel that way. But I got to be honest with you. I worry like crazy about being ready financially to take on the responsibility of another human life, let alone my own. The idea of raising a kid, I don't know if I can afford that. And besides the fact that I got to sell off bodily fluids to make rent every month, and I worry about having enough essence to effectively impregnate a woman left over afterwards, I want to be able to look after a kid financially, and I want to be a present person in their life. It's the time thing. The time. This is what we're talking about. The fact that it doesn't matter how menial your job is. You feel like you can never get away from it. My job is not important. This time you and I have conversations. It's pleasant. It's fun, but I'm not saving lives. I'm not building something amazing and essential to the survival of the American public. I play records on the radio. I chat on the radio. Yet, the obligation I feel to make sure that everything is going to be fine and freaking dandy at my radio station before I even think of setting foot out the door is insane. And it doesn't leave a lot of time. And that's the expectation because everybody else in America is working that way. And that's always what I assumed going in. And it was only when I started thinking about the idea of having a child and wanting to be present in their life, I didn't know if I could do it. But you live in one of these countries that has been named the happiest countries in the world. You get 52 weeks of parental leave when the kid's born. It's a big deal. Makes a huge difference. Now, healthcare in these countries is a right. They expect and receive healthcare as a basic right. But there's more than that. They know how to effectively use their health systems. I've got health insurance. I'm lucky enough to have a job and some benefits. And when I jacked up my ankle this time last year, man, I've never had a more difficult time giving someone money. I remember leaving the emergency room being like, I want to pay. Oh, we don't know what you owe. Well, find out what I owe. Well, we can until we talk to your insurance company. Well, when's that going to be? Sometime this week. Well, I just want to pay and be done with it. I've got stuff to do. I've got a really busy life. I've got to make sure Red Hot Chili Peppers and Metallica records stay on the air. I don't have time for this nonsense. Let me pay you. Well, we don't know what you owe. You want to just leave us $1,000? No, I don't want to just leave you $1,000. Do I owe you $1,000? Well, no. Well, what if I owe less than $1,000? Oh, we'll get it back to you. Based on your rather cavalier attitude to the billing process, I don't hold out a lot of hope for that being an expeditious thing. I don't think you're going to do the right things. So I left without paying. I got a bill. I paid it. I got another bill. I paid it. I got another bill. I said, I feel like I've paid too many bills already. I called them up. They're like, yeah, ignore that one. Okay, fine. And then I got a call from a collections agency. I was like, what the hell? I tried to pay when I was there. F you people. It's the morass that we're in right now. It's confused. And for me, if I fall off my skateboard and I break a leg right now, I'd be like, wait, no, don't call an ambulance. I'll hobble over to the public hospital and wait for 5 hours and get it set. because I don't know what's covered or what my deductible would be. And yeah, no, thank you. And I'm someone with health insurance and a quote unquote good job and good pay and benefits and all the above that should make this easy to navigate when there couldn't be anything more difficult. So not only do they consider to be healthcare a right, they know how to use them because it's not all that difficult. Their healthcare systems. You just go and get fixed, and that's sort of the end of the story. Gender equality is a big deal. It's not just parents who can expect to have the gender norms balanced. These countries generally rank among the top in a World Economic Forum's yearly report that measures gender equality. Other things that make these places the happiest countries on earth, well, they bike a lot. Biking is the norm. People bike. About 50% of the population rides a bike once a day. Half of the commuting happens on a bike in some of these countries. Yeah. They put a positive spin on their harsh environment. They turn lemons into spice mulled wine. And it's defined as the concept of hygge. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is cultivated coziness. And they feel a responsibility to one another. Now, it sounds like I'm idealizing Scandinavian people. I'm not. I'm just saying they're voted consistently the happiest folks on earth, and these are the things that they point to that make them happy. Their health care, the ease with which they can use their health care, the time they get to spend with their family, the fact that they live in a society where gender equality is a priority, the fact that they're biking a lot, getting some exercise, getting outdoors, the fact that they put a positive spin on difficult situations, like the fact that they live on a godforsaken windswept rock, and the fact that they feel responsibility to one another. See, they don't necessarily prioritize social security and safety just so they can receive benefits. There's a real sense of responsibility and belonging, civic duty toward one another. This, combined with the fact that there's economic security and there's a balance between life and work, means that a lot of people volunteer. Yeah, they volunteer. They do for one another. They're part of a community that, rather than fiercely protecting what is theirs from anybody that would try and take it, they're a little bit more generous with their time, I suppose, because they feel like they've got enough. You see, I went to school with a lot of Scandinavian kids, and I have to say I missed them a lot. Why? Because they were so good-natured. They really believed in living life. They had this open, gregarious thing about them. And, well, here's the thing about all this happiness. It comes with a humongous level of taxation. And, well, we'll get into that aspect of it next, because people are going, AD, what you're not taking into account is Scandinavian socialism. We'll get there.
You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
So over and over and over and over and over again, Scandinavian countries are named as the happiest countries in the world. America, not so much. And we've been talking about some of the reasons why. Places like Denmark and Sweden and Norway are consistently named to be some of the happiest places on earth. These godforsaken, freezing cold, windswept rocks, why are they so happy? And we've discovered that, well, they do things like support the family unit. giving all sorts of parental leave so you can bond with your children, so you can be an effective parent, so you can be a part of your child's life and make sure they're raised right. Healthcare is a civil right. And not only that, they know how to effectively use their healthcare. There is no fear. I'm not going to say there's no fear, but there is no fear of navigating the system that provides their healthcare. They understand how to effectively use it. Gender equality, it's prioritized. Men and women are closer to being equal in these happy countries. People get outside and bike a lot. Yeah, they're in the sunshine. They're getting some exercise. Over 50% of the residents of Scandinavia, when the weather permits, will commute by bicycle. It's true. And they feel a responsibility toward one another. They feel responsibility and belonging. And they've been brought up in a culture that is not necessarily one of guarding everything you have from someone else. It's feeling okay about what you have and therefore being quicker to volunteer and look out for each other. Does that make sense? You see, I went to school with a lot of Scandinavian kids, and I have to say I miss them a lot. Why? They were all so good-natured. They really believed in living life. They had this open, gregarious thing about them. See, here's the thing about all this happiness. It comes with a humongous price tag, a massive level of taxation. It comes with Scandinavian socialism, something I am obviously not too keen on, but what's interesting about that is you can work your ass off in your chosen career in one of these Scandinavian countries, but with a level of taxation, you're going to have a house. It's not going to be some gargantuan, ostentatious mansion. You're going to have a car. Like a friend of mine who lives there has a fancy car, and it's an old Lexus SUV that he paid something ridiculous for. It's a nice car, but it's not something be all and end all that makes him go, I am the boss of the universe when he drives it down the street. So you're never really going to be in a position to be like, hey, look at my car, look at my house. I'm awesome when you're in Scandinavia. Keeping up with the Joneses over there doesn't really exist in the same way. So if busting your ass just gets you the same way of life that everybody else has over there, it kind of flips priorities upside down. People in Scandinavia kind of work to live. They don't live to work. I've got friends in the oil business who deal with Norwegian counterparts pretty often, and they hate it. They hate it. Because when 4 o'clock rolls around in Norway, it doesn't matter what's happening. Their Norwegian counterparts are out of there. Oh, sorry, you're working on an important project. Well, I'm leaving the office now to go live my life and have dinner with my family. Maybe take a little exercise, perhaps watch some television, get a full night of sleep, and I'll be back bright bushy-tailed tomorrow. Yep, they bail when it's time to bail. And that's the end of the story. You must take at least 6 weeks a year of vacation. You got to take at least 6 weeks a year of vacation, and it is mandatory that 2 of those weeks are consecutives. This is the law. So you could be under huge amounts of pressure to get something done tomorrow and be working on it with your Scandinavian counterpart. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, Dan, tough meatballs. It's 4. I'm going home. I won't be back in the office for 2 weeks. Kindly see Sven Thorhammer with any concerns, but I haven't been working with Sven Thorhammer on any of this, and my American boss will skin me alive if it's not on his desk by the end of the week. Sorry. I'd love to help, but I'll have to refer you to my earlier tough meatballs remark. Like, I would love to tell the powers that be to shove it. I'm taking my legally enforced 2-week vacation to keep my seat warm for when I return. But I've been on the radio 365 days of the year for the past 12, 13 years. In one way, shape, or form, I've done some sort of work on every one of those days. And I'm playing Metallica and the Chili Peppers on the radio, not performing anything all that vital to the survival of humanity. Provide fun. That's really cool, and that's a necessary component of life. But does it make sense that I've been on the air 365 days a year for like 12 straight years? Every time I turn around, and I'm using myself as an example, but I know you're going through it, and all of us in America are going through it. Every time I turn around, there's more responsibility, more deadlines, less and less likelihood that anyone can cover for me while I'm away because someone fired or someone quit or someone just got fed up and went back to Scandinavia. Now, what's the flip side of this? Well, I'm friends with a Danish band called New Politics. You ever seen them? Man, go see New Politics. They're so good. They put on one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life and one of the best shows you're ever going to see in your life. What makes them so good? Well, besides the fact that they're doing backflips and headspins on stage, they are like the most affable, easygoing, likable, warm, gregarious bunch of rock stars you're ever going to meet. They're so likable, and they take that on stage with them. They're so easy to get along with, but they relocated to America. And I remember talking to their guitar player, a dude called Soren, and he was so excited to live in America. He was like, oh my God, it's great here. There's so much more opportunity to go and make something of yourself. America rules. He came here to take advantage of laissez-faire capitalism. Yet, he has that openness, that cheerfulness that comes from being raised in Scandinavian socialism. That sense of, I can go and I can take chances because ultimately I'm a Danish national. And I break a leg, I get cancer, I know I'm going to be able to get the treatment that I need. So, what are we saying here? I guess we're saying that maybe the answer is to be born in Denmark and move to America. Maybe not. But we'll have closing thoughts on this next.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So we've been talking a little bit today about the American work ethic. We've been talking about the American work ethic, something that I love, something I think is very important, something I hang my hat on, something that I believe in. But something that I think is maybe causing us to lose sight of what matters. And we've been talking about the happiest countries in the world, and almost universally every single year. If it's not Denmark, it's Sweden. If it's not Sweden, it's Norway. If it's not Norway, it's Finland. I think it's Finland this year. But overall, it tends to be Scandinavia. And we've talked about the fact that this comes from, well, they support the idea of a family. They support parents. They support massive amounts of parental leave, or at least massive by comparison to America. The average bit of maternity leave in America is 10 weeks or so. You get 52 weeks in Scandinavia. Healthcare is a right, and people understand how to effectively use their healthcare systems. There's more gender equality. People bike a lot. I know it sounds silly, but that contributes massively to the happiness of a population. It really does. Just because, well, here's the thing. If you bike a lot, you're going to be outdoors, you're going to be getting some exercise. That's going to put a smile on your face. They feel responsibility toward one another. They are participatory in their democracy. Voter turnout is something insanely high, like 90%, because they feel like there's a lack of corruption, and what they think and what they do and the levers that they pull actually make a difference. And they do for each other. They have this sense of community. So I know by saying this, there's going to be people that listen to this show that feel as though I'm a conservative, that go, hey, D, we thought you were at least a fiscal conservative. How could you be so unbelievably irresponsible with this puerile, pinko, commie, redcoat nonsense that you are sporting? We thought you were about the free market, but we see now you're just a demon piglet willing to suckle at America's chapped fiscal teat until you get what you feel is coming to you. Pshaw. And there are folks that say and think things like that listen to this show. I got called an America-hating commie son of a Jew a little while ago. Someone took the time to write me that this past week just gone by. There's going to be people saying, you don't like America, then get over to Copenhagen or Lapland or wherever it is. And how do you like those meatballs? No, shut up. Open your ears. Listen. read, talk, have a conversation. I'm here to start a conversation. All I'm saying is that maybe we, America, one of the greatest examples of democracy on the planet, who got to be that way because we're smart and because we're open to the idea of learning. Maybe we could learn something from another one of those democracy things that seems to be pretty successful at doing it as well. That's all I'm saying. And one final thought about why the breakneck pace of work in America is, for more than the obvious reason, an unhealthy thing for us. We live in a time where America is widely accepted to be completely divided. People think folks with different views, different life experiences, different opinions than theirs are evil a-holes that hate America. How does this happen? Well, we don't really get a chance to meet too many people that are different than us. We don't get out into the world. We don't even get out into the country. We don't travel a whole lot. We don't have that luxury of time that it takes to travel. And in doing so, we wind up living in a bubble. We wind up living in an echo chamber. We wind up living in a world where two very dangerous things happen. One, we get a constant barrage of people telling us we're so right. We're so right. We're so right. And the way we think is the only right way. Because everybody around you is exactly the same as you and has had similar life experiences to you. The other part that's dangerous is it causes us to stop learning. It makes us stupider. It makes us easier for politicians to divide us and conquer us, and it will lead to the downfall of the sense of unity that America is supposed to be built on. All right, then, let's completely change gears. Let's talk about which bra size makes women the happiest. Yes, there's a study. That's actually kind of a fascinating one. We'll get into it right after we take a look at the events of today in the news. A drunken man who recently relieved himself on the seat in front of him on a Frontier Airlines flight, did you see this, is facing federal charges for interfering with the flight crew and indecent exposure. Yeah, he was drunk. He took it out, and he relieved the internal digestive pressure in his bladder on the seat in front of him. And for that, he was in big trouble. When the plane landed, he was taken away by police who told him, "Dude, you're in trouble now." It's the number one thing they won't put up with. A British tabloid is being sued for claiming that the Pussycat Dolls is a prostitution ring. Idiots. Everybody knows that's Fifth Harmony. Charlize Theron will play Megyn Kelly in a movie. Oh, there you go. Interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to seeing what part of Megyn Kelly's life is deemed interesting enough to be turned into something that lasts for hours at a time. I don't know anything about Megyn Kelly except for what we learned about her during the run-up to the election. So, yeah, maybe there's something there. I don't know. You first. You can tell me how it is. The new Star Wars spin-off will be about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, the new Star Wars spin-off is going to be about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Disney doesn't even pretend anymore. The title, they're calling Suck It Nerds, We Got Your Money. Real housewife Kim Zolciak recently turned 40, which is amazing because she doesn't look a day over terrifying reanimated rubber corpse. Doesn't look a day over catcher's mitt. Kobe Bryant said he disagrees with Kanye West's comment about slavery because it wasn't a choice. Oh. You know what else is apparently not a choice? Sometimes having sex with Kobe Bryant. A sinkhole has been growing on the north lawn of the White House. Yes, a sinkhole has been growing on the north lawn of the White House. I think it was discovered at the beginning of the month. You know, right around Sinkhole de Mayo. Yeah. Numerous people have reported being shocked by their Fitbits. You ever been shocked by your Fitbit? I think the only time I was ever shocked by a Fitbit was when it informed me that there were not, in fact, a dozen sit-ups in every bite of that donut. That was a sad and depressing day. Who uses Fitbits? Is that a thing for you? Maybe I don't fully understand them. Because, I would imagine your phone does everything a Fitbit does. It's like the idea of still having an iPod when you have a phone. What's the point? Who cares? Who's using this? I don't get it. I don't understand. My phone will tell me how many steps I've taken in a day, whether I want it to or not. I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off. So the purpose of buying a second device to tell you how many steps you've taken is sort of beyond me. But yeah, apparently people are getting shocked by their Fitbits. Well, you know what's never going to shock you? Bacon. I rest my case. All right, let's you and I talk for a second, if we may, about breast size. This is a thing. This happened. There was a survey, and it's actually kind of fascinating. It's amazing just how many people in this world derive the most happiness from boobs, and not just men, women too. A new survey found the bra sizes that make women the happiest. Check this out. In at number 1, the C cup. Yeah, 39% of women with them love them. I guess the C cup's probably a pretty good one because it's not cartoonishly large, but there's enough there to where you can feel secure in the notion that you've got enough boobage going on. And at number 2, D's and double D's. Hey, look at D's. And at number 3, A's and double A's. 4, E's. And finally, the people least happy by their the women made least happy by their boobs, that would be those with B's. Yeah. And what's interesting is the survey also found that women with more extreme sizes were much more likely to say that their breasts influenced their personality. And I can kind of sort of see that, actually. Because, well, if you're somewhere in the middle, if you're somewhere closer to the mean or the average, well, then there's a very good chance that you don't give it too much thought. But if you are unbelievably generously endowed, well, then there's a good chance that that's who you are. Whether you like it or not, people are going to be like, hey, you're the girl with the whoppers to remember. Or if you are someone with very small breasts, there's a very good chance that that's who you are. I'm just part of the itty bitty committee, and I'm cool with that. This is who I am, and I've made my peace with it. Something I think you have to give a little bit more thought to. If you're a couple of standard deviations away from the mean, it's going to affect you a little bit more. Whether we're talking about breast size or income or any of the above. What's interesting is 27% of women with E cups and 25% of women with A or double A cups say their boobs were a part of their personality. Higher than the numbers of any women with breast sizes in between. Yeah, sort of fascinating stuff. And in a bizarre sort of way, this actually made me think about being a parent. I don't have kids, but I always thought if I had a daughter, I'd want that daughter to be pretty enough to where she didn't worry about her looks. But knowing what horrible, awful pigs men and my guy friends are, I never wanted, and again, this is a fictitious daughter that doesn't exist yet, but if I had a daughter, I wouldn't want my daughter to be hot, because that's just who you become. She's hot. Really? Her thoughts, her feelings, what's she interested in? What bands does she like? I don't know, man. She's so hot, though. It's almost a reductive thing when the first impression you make is one that is purely physical in that way. And it got me thinking about it, and this is a very bizarre subject, but it got me thinking about the breast size of my unborn daughter, should I ever have one. And same deal. I hope that, she's got enough going on that she's happy with it, if that's what she wants. But I hope she's not super generously endowed, because, well, then that becomes part of your personality. That's the first thing these pigs of men that I've grown up with and been friends with, and I know how they operate. I know how men are. I know the type of people they are. It's almost impossible, I think, when you're young to not be in some way, shape, or form defined by that. And that's a real shame. And it totally makes sense based on this survey, which says that women with more extreme sizes of breasts, whether they're small or large, say that this has become a part of their personality. This has influenced their personality. This has been a part of who they are. And in one sense, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you have a physical attribute, or if you're built a certain way, then that is who you are. And embracing it's cool. But when it causes other people to perhaps diminish you, their knee-jerk reaction is to not necessarily take you in as a whole human being, but reduce you to a cup size well, that's a tough way to go through life, I think. And yeah, like I said, in a bizarre twist of fate, I found this particular piece of news giving me the desire that if I ever have a daughter, that she's got enough going on in the chest department to where she feels happy, but not enough to where people are going to make a decision about who she is based on that. And based on that piece of information, I suppose what it encourages me to do is go out into the world and be less assumptive when it comes to who someone is based on their physical appearance or their attributes or how big or not big their boobs are. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you for hanging out. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do this all over again.